Hello UUBers fans, my name is Vision, coach of the Hangzhou Sharks, and I am here to give you your Week 4 UUBers recap. I want to thank everyone for the support from last video, and I have been slowly improving my ladder score, slowly but surely. So now I am a little bit more qualified to be talking about draft leagues. Let's not waste any more time as a lot of insane games have happened this week. It is at this point of the draft where every single win and loss matters as we near the halfway point. SBAP and Terminal continue their reigns of terror over the Pool A division, both holding undefeated records. Flying solidly hold that third place position with Excalibur and Fishy right behind them in 4th and 5th place. Nebula and Vig share the 7th and 8th place spots with 1 win, 2 losses with an even differential. Volt Ninja, Kizako, Mazanite, and Septilite reside in the last 4 spots of the pool, which I like to refer to as the Danger Zone. Septilite remains the only player in the Danger Zone without a win under the belt, but this can easily change as they face their opponent, Excalibur. Excalibur opens turn 1 with a quick flare blitz into the lead Magirna, which gets annihilated to the next dimension. After the loss of Magirna, the game would quickly devolve into Septilite losing Pokemon after Pokemon. Septilite had a team built around a possible double screen Magirna based on how much setup and offense there was on their side. They had a Shift Gear Cyclizar, Curse Mug, and super hyper offensive legendaries in Deoxys and Damazenta, both holding life orbs. Septilite probably should have opted for a Shedtail Cyclizar with Quiver Dance, Ghost, or Oricorio instead of the Specs Oricorio into a team with Darkrai on the team previewer. Definitely one of the goofiest games this week. Excalibur takes the win over Septilite with 1 Pokemon remaining. Will Septilite get their first win of the season soon? Only time will tell. Last week I talked about weather in the draft when SBAP played versus Nebula. There are 2 options for when you play to a draft that commits itself to a gimmick. Do you play under their strategy or attempt to beat it with a counter strategy? This week, Fishy decided to do a little bit of both, which would quickly blow up in their face as the rain would sweep them away. They attempted to bring Sunny Day on their Cinderace and Sandy Shocks, which would quickly get countered by double Rain Dance. Fishy's team that they brought also just could not handle the Choice Bed Floatzel, even though they have a Suicune on their draft. This match really was just a team builder difference though, as Nebula brought out some spicy Archaludon tech with Sugar Berry and Miracle beat Sandy Shocks 1-on-1. Due to their excellent preparation, Nebula would take the win with 4 Pokemon left remaining, marking their 2nd win of the season. Flying would open their game against Volt Ninja, doing their best Septilite impression, as their lead Screensetter would get nuked by the opposition's lead. A big problem I have with the Gouging Fire brought this week was the choice to bring Temper Flare on Gouging Fire. I understand you don't want to take recoil damage and have perfect accuracy, but a Dragon Dancing hyper offensive Gouging Fire behind screens just wants to kill you. Just flare blitz things and heal up with Morning Sun. Keeping the Meowscarada alive would prove to be a problem, as it would set up a spike and knock off Dipity's Choice Scarf. This wouldn't have happened if you just blitzed it. Aside from my gripe though, Mew would prove how powerful it is in draft, as it would nearly tie up the game with its physical prowess, but Iron Hands, one of the Pokemon of all time, checked out the speed and Ursaluna for a very, very close endgame. Volt Ninja would barely take the win with 1 Pokemon left. It would be contender for Game of the Week, but some of the later games were also insanely close. Well played to both players nonetheless. There has to be some kind of pact Pool A made, because this is the 3rd game so far where 1 Pokemon just sends the opposing Pokemon to the Shadow Realm. I mean, not much to quite honestly talk about this game between Kizako and Mazanite, except Mazo's preparation for this game was phenomenal. Terra Fairy Hariyama with Thick Fat to beat Chiyu, an early knockout on Tikaton just opened up the game for Dialga to beat itself as Ditto transformed into it. By the way, did you guys know that Hariyama got Headlong Rush? Genuinely surprised me watching the recording for this week's recap. Mazanite would take the game though over Kizako in a quick 3-0 fashion. SBAP versus Terminal, a game that many were anticipating. Both players sit at the top of their pool undefeated, and yet in such an important game, we see an SBAP no Mewtwo bring. They didn't even bring their most valuable Pokemon, a ban-worthy Pokemon. And to everybody's surprise, this would actually be beneficial to SBAP, as an Assault Vest Akreemi would just tank every single Kyurem hit known to man. And to no one's surprise, Rotom Heat went absolutely insane this game, rocking a Choice Specs Terra Electric set to punish Terminal's draft sin. not drafting a ground type. Without a single ground type, every single Thunderbolt would just land and blow up Terminal's team. A hard-fought game nonetheless, as Luya fought to end the game with its infamous calm mindsets. But SBAP would take the game win with 4 Pokemon alive to secure SBAP's ticket to playoffs for this season. Just like in the previous game, another draft sin would be the downfall of Vigvig, not drafting a grounded poison type. Even though Vigvig has 3 Uber Pokemon, 2 of them having the best removal in the game, that does not excuse anybody from not picking up a grounded poison type. Because as demonstrated by King, Toxic Spikes would become a valuable win condition. And in full honesty, this game looks super strong for King on team preview, because nothing on Vigvig's team can really deal with Alomomola outside of Zebstrika, which is deeply unserious. Let's be, it's Zebstrika! Specs Palkia also played a huge part in this game, just nuking the entirety of Vigvig's team without their fairy type Florges. King would take the game in a dominant fashion, which concludes Pool A for this week. Kicking into Week 4 for Pool B, Ruben, Pace, Toast, and Reposty continue to fight for dominance, with all 3 of them having undefeated records. Trailing behind them in 4th place is Wi-Fi at their heels is Ocean and Ice Cream with 2 wins under their belts. Naveman and Portobello hold on to that 7th and 8th place spots and are safe from the danger zone. Vortex sits in the danger zone as the only player down there with a win. Dino, Kind Squared, and Yoramas all have yet to get their first wins, but things can change this week. Except for Kind Squared, if they actually played, but I guess homie's in the Bahamas on vacation or something. The first game of Pool B would start with a nail-biter game between Wi-Fi and Ice Cream. The greatest thing happened in this game is the Trapinch built to beat Reshiram one-on-one with Earthquake and Quick Attack. Such a cool, low-tier Pokemon brain to be a literal UUBers Pokemon, and is a close contender for Pokemon of the Week. Pokemon like Trapinch are what make drafts so interesting. No tier niche picks that can beat the best Pokemon in the format. Now, outside of the super cool Trapinch play, the game would go back and forth, got a little dangerous versus the Iron Rock behind the sub, but Lycanroc made quick work with him and the rest of Icy's team. Congratulations to Wi-Fi for taking the win over Ice Cream 2-0. Another beautiful game of a Gen 5 legendary getting arena trapped by a ground type and getting absolutely nuked. Endeavor, Sucker Punch, Dugtrio would nuke Reshiram off the face of the planet. I would also put Dugtrio as a close contender as Pokemon of the Week, but he's just not as cool as Trapinch. Sorry, but I'm not sorry. Ruben would bring a more aggressive team versus Dino, featuring a choice Specs Hydreigon that Dino cannot answer. Outside of Pheasantipity, there is no Pokemon Dino set that can even withstand a Dark Pulse or Draco Meteor from the Gen 5 Pseudo Legendary, especially after Zamba sent to put a huge dent into Dino's team early. The game looked doomed, but Dino brought out one of the craziest sets I have seen in all of this draft. Swagger Mirror Herb Thunderous Incarnate. If Ruben did not have Ogerpon Cornerstone's 30 intact, the game would have swung into Dino's favor. Sword Zan's Grassy Glide Ogerpon would clean up the last two remaining Pokemon Dino's side, giving Ruben the win 4-0, keeping their undefeated streak alive. It was definitely a contender for Match of the Week, however, I have to give Match of the Week to Ocean vs. Toast. As Ocean's teammate, I do have to preface that they desperately wanted to beat Toast this season. After losing to Toast last season in both the regular season and the playoffs, Ocean was determined to win this game. Thankfully, this game was very competitive. Terapagos would take first blood against Mewtwo, which Ocean should have definitely preserved if they were able to. Now, Toast probably should have assumed something was suspicious when Rotom stayed for a couple turns against Hisui and Arcanine. The Aqua Berry on the Rotom would prove to be very, very useful, as it completely eliminated threat Arcanine Hisui from the game. Two insane sets were cooked up for this game though. Weak Armor Swords Dance Skarmory that would completely beat the Great Tusk one-on-one, and the Demon Agility Terra Fairy Porygon 2. The Porygon 2 would get into a very close endgame versus Toast Urshifu Single Strike, as the difference between Toast winning was going jolly over Adamant Nature. Due to these missing speed EVs, Porygon 2 was able to be faster than Urshifu and win the game with Terra Blast Fairy. A great game from two amazing players from this pool. The recap, short and sweet, just like this game. Reposty versus Portobello. Reposty versus Portobello would result in a 10-turn game as Weakness Policy double dance Mew straight into Rain Kingdra. The Mew deleted the 2 Pokemon necessary to stop Kingdra. That's it. That's the game. That's all I got for this recap. Here's an image of a Kingdra plushie as we head into our next game. To be honest, I really liked the Uramas team that was brought into Namebad this week. I'm just saying it straight up. Neymar was definitely ready for the Guts Ursaluna, but I could tell that Neymar was ready for Guts Ursaluna, but he definitely was not ready for him to get trick roomed on by Magirna, bolstering it to even greater heights. I genuinely believe there was not much Neymar could do versus the trick room in Magirna, because they had to worry about so many other prominent threats on Yarmus' draft, like Weavile and Palkia Origin. Speaking of Palkia Origin, I shall shout out to that Pokemon for putting in so much work in all 3 pools, no matter if it's a win or a loss. Neymar played well, but Yarmus definitely caught them off guard and will take the win 2-0. After last week's up and down games, Pool C remains to be a hyper-competitive pool amongst its players. Outside of, well, myself, as the only undefeated player left in the pool. Mob, Alice, Maple, Shadow, and Bandit are all fighting for the top of the leaderboard, all with 2 wins, with the difference between 6th place and 2nd place being only 4 kills. The same close fight happens down below past 7th all the way down to 11th place, as all 5 players would be up 1 win. Keep an eye out for the bottom 6 players though. All of them can still easily make it out of the danger zone. And speaking of players in the danger zone, CW is still searching for their first win as they play out for week 4. CW started the game off strong, getting an early Rocks up, removing Moltres' choice specs, and getting Dragapult in a prime position to do work. The game would be back and forth for a few turns until CW let their Solgaleo get knocked out by Iron Treads. This play confused me, honestly, because CW had Wheezy in the back to absorb anything Iron Treads could have done. With the loss of Solgaleo, the game definitely became much harder to play for CW. They did manage to make the game very close, but unfortunately, Bandit Weavile was not enough for even the final kill on Terrifier Shaman. Very small fine details could have swayed the favor into CW's favor, like a different item on Great Tusk instead of heavy duty boots and preserving the Solgaleo. We'll play to both players as Alice takes the game 2-0. Maple vs Pajumas was definitely a one-sided game in Maple's favor. Maple had answers to nearly every threat on Pajumas' team. A Palkia would trick to stop Lugia from doing its normal shenanigans with Calm Minds and Roosts, early kill on Ogrepon Hearthflame, Dialga, and Lugia. The game looked to be all but one for Maple, until Terraflying Jolteon got 2 Calm Minds up and proceeded to assassinate all 5 of Maple's Pokemon for a clutch 2-0 win. This game honestly taught me that anybody in the draft who has Palafin in the draft needs to start getting way more creative with their Palafins instead of just putting a choice band on them and calling it a day. That Pokemon has so many cool sets like special sets or even like encore setup sets. Besides that though, and congrats to Pajumas for winning. If there was a worst game of the week, it genuinely might have been this one. I don't care. I'm a hater. I did not like this game at all. This game was awful. Watching Poltegeist suicide for a memento to get Galarian Slowbro with the belly drum just to immediately get roared, and then literally 3 turns, Indeedee also commits suicide with Healing Wish to get Slowbro back in just to lose 1v1 against Bronzong. I got nothing more for this game. Here's another Kingdra plushie. You guys saw the thumbnail. My choice for Pokemon of the Week is going to be Vileplume. Although Vileplume's success in the game between Zero and Steel was due to Zero not bringing one of his 2 fire types into this game, it definitely does not detract from the value Vileplume had in the game. Without a single fire type to stop it, it was able to abuse the opposing Rillaboom's grassy terrain and be an overall nuisance with causing Strength Sap, Sludge Bombs, and Leech Seeds. I said it before, but the beauty of Pokemon Draft is the implementation of weaker Pokemon being much stronger than perceived. A slow burn, but Steel would confidently take this game with a commanding 6-0 sweep. A dominant game that will definitely be talked about after the season's over. For the final game of week 4, it is yours truly versus Greatest Stick. Funny side note, I started this game by going absolutely insane, looking at what Terra types Greatest Stick had on the main document, even though the Terra types are public to everybody. The game had a fair amount of sacky luck, such as crucial paralysis on Sceptile so that it could not shut tail out, or the double paralysis on Terra Ground Mega versus Zamazenta Crown that would have absolutely nuked it. The absolute most insane part of this game though was seeing Shadow Force Giratina. When I saw this in game, my jaw dropped. My eyes widened. I genuinely could not tell what I was looking at, and I nearly misclicked the wrong Pokemon. Definitely an interesting set of Pokemon moves on Graded side, but I will take the game in dominant fashion 4-0. As the draft nears down to the halfway point, please make sure to drop your favorite moments from this week down in the comments. I am always looking for criticisms of these videos. I put a lot of time and effort into these, and I want to make sure the content is both educational and entertaining. Alright, take care now. Me!